The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Habari Gsni. And that means it's time for another edition of Black Focus Radio. We're the only show that unabashedly addresses black issues, creating black solutions and amplifying black voices. Be sure to support our sponsors, joynetradio.com, where we keep you informed and inspired, broadcasting the Black Focus Radio show daily, 12 to 2 p.m. Central Time. And of course, don't forget to support riprub.com, where we bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh, yeah. Come on, give me your hand, and I'll take you all down through barbecue land. Catch Black Focus Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And while there, review the Black Focus Radio archives of the shows that we've done so far. And be sure to subscribe. In other words, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends and family. Don't forget to join my one-man campaign to get rid of the N-word. It is the most despicable word ever created, and certainly in this day and time, we've got to get rid of it. Our rise begins with how we address ourselves and one another, and using a derogatory slur against our own people is a negative, self-fulfilling prophecy. So, in other words, just don't say it. So, coming up on the show today, it's going to be a little different. We usually do black facts. We're not going to do black facts today, but I'm going to dedicate this show to a good friend of mine who passed away just recently. He is a former state representative of Tennessee and part of the Tennessee Black Caucus, GA Hardaway. I'm going to tell you a little bit about GA and how he figures into what we're doing and what I did, and basically met him at a very, very difficult part in my life, and all that's going to figure into the show today. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about the re-release of my book, and you probably, if you saw the last show, you saw some of the ads, but the re-release of, yeah, that's it, The Paing of Vengeance, and I'm really excited about that, and GA kind of in a roundabout way figures into that as well, okay? We're going to also throw in a whole lot of other stuff. We've got stuff like, it's seriously time to boycott. All right. I will tell you that I'm writing a novel right now, considering or talking about that very issue. We're going to talk about black farmers who are being ignored, HBCUs that are under attack, the Black Louisiana, who won, and Calvin Duncan. If you haven't heard that story, we're going to talk about that. Another teacher basically taught a child a lesson. We're going to talk about that as well. A teacher that broke up a fight and ended up getting arrested. Did you hear what I said? She broke up a fight and got arrested. Let's see. Corporations get tariffs and you don't. Or I should say they get compensation for tariffs and you don't. Houston cop gets fired for a racist rant, which is just really amazing to me. And clearly America has no shame. All of that and a lot more today on Black Focus Radio. Okay, so as I've said before, typically we do black facts here, but we're not going to do them here today. So before I get into GA Hardaway, a good friend of mine, I want to talk a little bit about The Paing of Vengeance. You will see later on in the show, I'm actually going to take about 5 minutes and play the video clip that I made with The Paing of Vengeance. I hope you enjoy it. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about the book. It seems more and more and more we are getting fathers who are getting discriminated against, and nobody seems to give a damn about it. It was about 25 years ago that I decided that I wanted to do something about it because I too was one of those fathers. I went on a scorched earth approach to fight the state of Tennessee and almost lost my life in doing so. So once I recovered, and I've told the story of my attempt, and I'll just say it, my attempt at suicide. As I told the story of the attempt, one of the ways that I was able to get over the depression, the severe depression that I was going through, is I decided to write. Now, ironically, when I was growing up, I knew I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to write a book. And I had no idea that this particular book that I was writing at the time, or the book that I ended up writing, the novel, was going to be so, for lack of a better term, so groundbreaking. Nobody wanted to talk about fathers' rights. It was the dirty little secret that was going on in family courts of how men were being treated. And most of the men who were going through it had no refuge. They had nobody to turn to. There were a ragtag group of people who were fighting, who joined me at the Tennessee State Legislature at the time. But we were still unorganized and so on and so forth. And I brought cause and purpose to I Love My Children, to Dads Against Discrimination, and of course, the Children's Rights Council. So I wrote The Pain of Vengeance. And now, after all these years, I really didn't pick up the book for about 15 years because it was painful. Now, it was a novel, but there are bits and pieces of the story that actually was me, actually what I went through. And it's funny when those who knew me and they were my friends who actually read the book, they immediately equated it to me. They knew it was me. Dave, some of this stuff is you. I know it is. And I ultimately ended up admitting that it was. So, I wrote the book, didn't pick it up for about 15, 20 years. And then I actually moved away from the fathers' rights movement. And I did that for my sanity because it had been so mentally debilitating to me that I needed to just not necessarily close the door, but I pulled down the shades, okay, in order to heal thyself. Since then, I have healed myself. So I decided that I was going to write the book and, pick up the book again. And with modern technology and so on and so forth, I kept hearing these stories about fathers. And, those of us who know when we are called, we know that we cannot turn our backs on that calling. And I knew, based on what I had done at the Tennessee State Legislature and the fathers that I had helped, it began to dawn on me that somehow or another I needed to get back in this fight. I remember when I was in the hospital and 4 fathers came to see me. And I've told the story about what really helped me heal was my son, because my son, I had been in the Vanderbilt psych unit for almost 8 days at the time. And usually I would call my son every week. Well, literally every day. Let me take that back. I even bought him a cell phone, one of them little Nokia phones, so I could always talk to him because I wasn't able to talk to him. And you can put 2 and 2 together on that. There was always excuses. So I said, I'm going to buy him a phone so I can talk to him. So I didn't call him for about a week. When I finally called him, he asked me, he said, Dad, where have you been? You haven't called me. And I said, I've been ill. He said, oh, why didn't you tell me? I said, I almost died. And he paused for a moment. It was quiet on the other end. And he said this to me. He said, "What would I have done without you?" And although he didn't know it at the time, I was crying on the phone. Prior to that conversation with my son, I wouldn't even participate in group. And until, the whole thing was that if you don't participate in group, you can't get out of here. I didn't care at that time. I was ready to go. Started participating, immediately went back upstairs, started participating in group. They had taken my shoestrings and decided that I wanted my shoestrings back. I had these very nice brand new Nikes that I wore. I was walking around with no shoestrings. And they looked at me and they didn't know what had occurred, but they were happy. And finally, 4 days later, I was released. Prior to being released, 4 fathers came to see me. And I told them what was going on. Well, they knew by that time what was going on. And every one of them, all 4 of them said, "Look, man," they told me their story about if it had not been for me, where they would be. You see, I was able to save everybody else and help them with their situations, but I wasn't really able to save myself. And those 4 fathers came to me and said, "Hey, we're with you, man. We're with you." And as a matter of fact, I thought about one of those men the other day, and I'm going to look him up to see how he's doing, because I haven't heard from him in quite some time. And we all are getting old. We all are passing away. But that's why I decided to re-release The Pain of Vengeance. Okay? And I wanted to re-release it to not necessarily new listeners, but as a reminder that this thing has been going on far too long, this discrimination in the American court system as it relates to fathers and their children. We know that the common denominator of all the negative behavior our children participate in is fatherlessness. We know that those children that are raised by single fathers, juxtaposing that with single mothers, fare much better. Now, I'm not trying to bash any mothers out there. Some women, when I was traveling around the country and doing my seminars, a lot of women were thinking that I was trying to bash them, but that was not the case at all. What I was trying to do is educate them on the fact that if they really love their children, they need to do anything and everything that they could to make sure that the fathers are back in the lives of those children. Somehow or another, those dads need to have a legitimate relationship. I can proudly say that as I went through assisting and raising my son, that I never uttered a coarse word to him about his mother. Okay? I wish that was the case on the other side. So it was important to me, and this has been coming now for about a year. And over the last year, I've read the book. In fact, I had, the book was re-edited by a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Lott. I appreciate you. And I was going to re-release it as a hardback or as a paperback. And then, of course, modern technology, with me being in radio and me being a computer guy, I've got all this computer equipment. I've got what I do with this show with the microphones, and I've got this nice board. You can't see it, but it's here. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, instead of re-releasing it in paperback, why don't you do an audio book? And more importantly, why don't you narrate the audio book? So I did. It's done. Okay? It's done. I completed the last chapter, chapter 21, last week. It is edited. I've got to make sure that I'm going to go back and re-listen to it this week. It is scheduled to be available for the public on June 1st. Ultimately, well, I should say initially, I was going to release it on my birthday, which is May 13th. But I want to just make sure things are right. So I want to go back and re-listen to it again, just in case I need to redo some parts and so on and so forth, because I want to make sure that it is good and it is done correctly. In the meantime, you've been seeing the commercials. If you are part of my Facebook page, you've been seeing the commercials. You've been seeing you saw the cover that has been redesigned, and it's fascinating to see the redesign of the cover. I've got 3 designs of the cover, by the way, and I'm still deciding which cover that I'm going to submit with the audiobook. I've also opened it up so that you can purchase the book for $4 less than the retail price. Okay? And it's probably going to be more than that, because my ultimate goal is to get it up on Amazon, Spotify, and all of the audiobook outlets. So typically they add their premiums to it. So I'm giving you an opportunity right now to try and, well, not just to try, but to purchase the book direct through me. And in a few minutes, I'm going to play that ad, and it's going to run about 5 minutes. But you'll be able to purchase it direct through me prior to June 1st. So once it's ready, I will send it directly to you. Okay? So, tell you what, let's go ahead right now and take a few minutes and go ahead and play this 5-minute piece about the pain of vengeance, written by Dante Sinkay, the audiobook. I'll see you in a moment. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here, or I should say Dante Sinkay. I'm coming to you on behalf of my book, The Pain of Vengeance, written by Dante Sinkay. Obviously, I write under that pen name. I can't believe it's been 20 years since I first released this book, and this is the last copy, okay? But don't be dismayed. I'm coming to you today because I want you to know that I am re-releasing the book on audiobook. So I hope you'll stay tuned as you get more information later on in this video on how you can make that purchase. I just wanted to give you an idea. This has been a labor of love. This book has changed a lot of lives, and it's a novel, by the way. And a lot of people are talking about it. So a lot of friends came to me and say, man, why don't you re-release your book? It was a great book, and you might need to think about making it as a movie. Well, I don't have the money to do that, but I do want you to see and hear the book for yourself. And I say hear because it's an audiobook. Over the last few months, I have been laboriously working to get the audio file out. It is narrated by me. I've also created a musical score that goes along with it as well. And the book is basically about a dad who steals his children, and chaos ensues. Okay, so I hope you would take an opportunity to listen to it. You can listen it on any medium. Your iPhone, your Samsung, your computer, you like to jog, you're sitting in your car. If you're going to take a long flight, it'll be great to listen to while you're on your flight as well. And I just wanted to update it because of technology as well. There are no plans to release the book, re-release it in hardback, but this is the only medium that you'll be able to get it on as well. One of the things that I want to make sure you understand is that I'm personally releasing the book. It's going, eventually will make it to Amazon. Eventually it'll make it to all the other audiobook platforms as well. But I wanted to release it to you so that way I can give you a specific discount. And if you purchase the book, you will be able to get $4. And later on in the video, you'll learn how you can do that. There will be a link and everything that you can click on to get $4. I initially wanted to release it on my upcoming 65th birthday, which is May 13th. But, you know, it's a labor of love. So the official release date will be June 1st. So if you purchase the book prior to June 1st, you'll get that $4 discount. Okay. I just wanted you to know that it's very important. And also,
I'm not saying you purchased it because you know me, because you're a friend of mine, but it's an excellent, excellent listen. Excellent read too as well, but you can't read the book. All right. It's about a guy who steals his children, and he has to fight against all kinds of things to stop a serial killer who was trying to get back on the justice system. I will tell you this, the common denominator of all the negative behavior our children participate in is fatherlessness. And what made me write the book is because I was going through a fight, the fight of my life, in my opinion, for my children as I took on the state of Tennessee. At one point, I had an organization called I Love My Children Too. We're thinking about rebuilding that organization, but we'll give you some details on that as well. But this book acted as my therapy because I needed an outlet to voice my concerns. Okay, but I hope you'll enjoy it. Again, tell some friends. I will tell you also, most of the people that were in my organization were women. So if you're a sister out there, a woman out there who thinks, well, that book is just for men or just for fathers. No, when you read the book, because I'm going to tell you, second wives, grandparents, girlfriends, they were the first to approach me and say, hey, can you help my man? Can you help my son? Can you help my father? It was just amazing, the response that I got during that time period. So again, the book was written. It's going to be re-released. It's a labor of love. I appreciate all the support that you all have given me prior to now. I'm just asking you to make that purchase. It will be a great Mother's Day gift and a great Father's Day gift. Either way, make the purchase. It's called The Pain of Vengeance, written by Dante Sinkay. Stay tuned. I'm going to give you more information on how to get a copy at a discount, $4. That's right. Thanks a lot for your support. I'm Dante Sinkay, writer of The Pain of Vengeance, and I appreciate you and I love you all. And remember, the common denominator of all the negative behavior our children participate in is fatherlessness, and we've got to stop it. Peace. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I used modern technology to make that ad. I think it came out great. Again, I want to thank all of you all for the support. I want to thank all of you all for the encouragement. I want to make another good point here is that I want to shout out to my sisters who have been in my corner for a long time. Two people in particular, Dr. Rosie Milligan, whom I talked to just this past week. And this past weekend, she did the longest running Black book event in America, Black Writers on Tour. I had hoped to be there, but things happened that I couldn't make it. But I certainly want to shout out to her. I also want to shout out to Jackie Thomas. You all have no idea that when I was going through my mess, how many Black sisters came to my aid. Okay. It was tons of them because as they would say to me, you a damn good brother. I don't know what's wrong with that other one, but you a damn good brother and we need you in the fight. So I want to thank all of you all for supporting me as I've developed over the years. I can't believe in 2 weeks I'm going to be 65 years old. So that's The Pain of Vengeance. When we come back, I'm going to tell you the story about GA Hardaway. You all, a lot of people that are on my wall, my Facebook wall, don't know GA Hardaway. But I'm going to tell you the story of how this brother affected my life. GA Hardaway passed away last week at 71 years old. As I tell people all the time, I've got more time behind me than I have ahead of me. And it is my mission
to make sure that I use every day of my life, no matter what calamities that I go through, no matter what pain that I have to deal with, no matter what problems that befall me. It is my mission to save somebody. And maybe the ancestors are telling me now that, Dave, we need you to get back in this fight. And here I be is. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. Right here on JoyNetRadio.com. Attention entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and soon-to-be 501c3 organizations. My name is David W. Coleman, and I want to ask you a question. Are you looking for funding for your business or organization? The new year is upon us, and it's time to get those grant proposals ready. Deadlines for submittals will arrive quickly, and I can help you put your best business foot forward. There are multiple funding sources available to assist you in completing your mission. You just need to know where to look. If you are new to proposal writing and need tips on where to search for funding, this seminar is for you. I'll help you demystify some of the myths relating to grant writing. I'll give you great proposal writing tips to help you get your submission in the A pile. I'll point you to funding sources that most people ignore when pursuing assistance. It doesn't matter if you are new to the game or a veteran in this space. I have no doubt there is information you can utilize to get the dollars flowing to your business or organization. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but tried and effective methods to be successful. If you want to know more, respond with the word grants in the comments below, and I will send you information on the very next Grants and Federal Assistance Seminar. In the meantime, keep looking for that funding, and I'll see you at the next Grants and Federal Assistance Seminar. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and RibRub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetables. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RibRub.com. Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. Send me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com if you got some questions or comments about the show. I'd love to hear from you. And if you got some guests. By the way, I'm going to start trying to get some guest appearances across the country as well, so on radio shows. So hopefully you all can help me out with that as well. So I started off talking about this person named GA Hardaway. Let me tell you about GA Hardaway. I was in the depths of my depression. I had just been thrown in jail for back child support. Now let me be clear. I wasn't thrown in jail because I wasn't paying. I was thrown in jail because I couldn't afford to pay. That's the dilemma of fathers all across this country. I had a job at the time. I lost my job. I had not paid child support for 3 months. I couldn't. I was barely living myself. So I decided that I was going to, I got summoned to court. And I will tell you that I wore it as a badge of honor that I had never been in jail. A lot of my friends had been in jail, relatives. My brother was one of the biggest drug dealers in the city that I grew up in. He had spent quite a bit of time in jail. And I wore it as a badge of honor that I had never been to jail. And my goal was that I would never go to jail. That dream or that mantra was thrown against the rocks when my ex at the time had me thrown in jail for back child support. And I told her, and she knew, that I couldn't pay. I wasn't working. I had lost my job. Got summoned to court. I'm thinking, because, this is new to me, that, I'm going to go to court. And I remember what I had on. I had on a nice suit, nice ties, dressed nice. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go to court. I'm going to make my plea to the judge. They're going to understand, and they're going to give me some time. So I went. There were nobody but us there. Judge Turner's court, by the way, juvenile court in Memphis, Tennessee. This judge was considered the hanging judge for fathers. So people who knew I was going, they had warned me that, bro, this is not going to end good for you. Okay. You're going to go to jail. I'm thinking, I'm not going to jail. I'm not. I get into court, sign in. They line us all up. And I'll tell you when I realized that I was in trouble. This brother who was sitting beside me, and they had us all in alphabetical order, he went before me, and he was there. He had his hospital tag on. When you go to the hospital, they put that wristband on you. He still had his IV. He had been in the hospital. The killer thing about it is the girlfriend and the 2 children were living with him. And prior to him having to go into the hospital, he was paying everything. But she had taken out a child support order unbeknownst to him. So he wasn't paying child support because, number one, he was paying for everything anyway. And then number 2, he couldn't because he was no longer working because he had been in the hospital. Judge calls him up. He gets up. He explains his situation, what's been going on. And after the judge listened to him and he told his story, the judge said, well, we're going to give you some jail time anyway, just as a reminder that you need to take care of your children. He said, but Your Honor, I am taking care of my children. They live with me. He said, if you throw me in jail, then they're not going to have utilities. They're not going to have food. I was the sole breadwinner in that family. He said, the judge said, you should have thought about that before you came in this court. Put him in jail. At that point, I knew my ass was grass. I just knew it at that point. And theoretically, it's kind of funny because as I thought back over it, I was the only one there dressed nicely. And maybe in retrospect, that was maybe a mistake. I shouldn't have went in there dressed up. But I was respecting the court. I was always taught that you should respect the court and dress nicely. I get up to the judge. I tell him what's going on. Told him I was looking for a job. Of course, I spoke well. I told him that, I have means to get a job. It's just a matter of time. He said, well, I'm going to throw you in jail to make sure you understand the significance of what we're doing here. I was at a loss for words. I remember riding down to 201 Poplar in that white van with those bars on the window. I remember going into the jail and being processed at 201 Poplar. I remember being in a room, a holding cell, with 15 other guys, a cell that was only supposed to be for 5 guys. Us standing, some sleeping, some drunk, all there for back child support. All of us black. And every one of them looking at me and wondering, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. Even as they heard me speak, they knew that something was out of whack. Eventually, they put me in another cell with another brother, and this was in the lockup. And about a day later, they took me upstairs to Gen Pop. Those of you who don't know what Gen Pop means, that's the general population. And word got around. And as a matter of fact, there was a guy who was in the Gen Pop who was also in there for back child support. He comes up to me and he says, "Don't I know you?" I said, "No, I probably not. I've never been in jail before, da-da-da-da-da." And so he went away. So in the meantime, they came and they had roll call. I'd never been in jail before. They called the inmates by their inmate numbers. Okay? So obviously I had a number. Everybody was answering and I didn't answer because I didn't know the procedure. This big black jailer got in my face and cussed me out, told me that when he calls my number, I better answer. The next time that happens, he's going to beat the living shit out of me. And then he's going to throw me in isolation. The brother who had asked me did he know me, stood up for me and said, hey, look, man, look, he's new here. He's never been in jail. He don't know the ropes. Give him a break. That jailer then turned to that guy and cussed him out. "MF, you don't tell me what to do. I run this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da." And I think what really frustrated me, because there was a black man who was the head jailer at the time, disrespecting all of the brothers. And there were white people in there, white men in there too. But at the time, he seemed to take pleasure in disrespecting the black men that were in there. After we went through roll call and we separated and we had bunks in this big old areas, there was no privacy. He came to me, the brother that said he recognized me, and he came to me and he said, "Man, I've been thinking." He said, "I knew you looked familiar." He said, "You're that father's rights guy, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." "How did you know?" He said, "Because I had seen you on TV. I remember you being on the local news talking about father's rights." And all of a sudden, all of the men that were in there for father's rights started gathering around me, asking me my story, asking me why am I there? And they were thanking me for what I was trying to do, even though I wasn't being successful. But they were thanking me. When I finally saw a judge, told me that I was $3,500, well, close to $4,000 in arrears. And I knew that. Said, "Mr. Coleman, do you have any way to pay it?" I said, "No, sir." I said, prior to me getting in here, I told the judge that I didn't have a job. I had just been laid off. As soon as I find something, I'm going to catch up, yada, 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 yada. It had been 4 days. The judge said, "Well, do you have anyone you can call?" And I called a friend who called another friend. That another friend was GA Hardaway. I didn't know GA Hardaway. I had never met GA Hardaway. During the time that I was working with the Tennessee Black Caucus, GA Hardaway was not a representative at the time. GA came to the jail, talked to me, and he said, "Brother, I'm going to help you out." A day later, I was free. GA Hardaway had put up close to $4,000 to get me out of jail. Now, what makes it so remarkable is the fact that I had never met GA Hardaway. I didn't know GA Hardaway. But here is a brother who decided that based on what I had already did, based on the fields that I had already planted, that I was worthy of him doing me that favor. So when I got out, I remember getting out at 2:00 in the morning. It was freezing cold. I had a friend that lived about 2 miles from the jail, Tanya. I called her and told her that I was getting out. She said, well, where are you going to go? I said, I don't know. I don't have anywhere to go. She said, well, you need to come to my house. So I walked in the freezing cold to Tanya's house, those 2 miles. And the weird thing about it, I remember not even feeling the cold. I was so angry. The next morning, I reached out to GA. And I was in tears and I was crying and I was telling him that I got to pay you back and da-da-da. He said, no, brother, you don't have to pay me back. He said, based on what I've heard about you, we need brothers like you in the fight. And I'm going to do everything that I can to help you. Subsequently, and I'm sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional because hearing about GA's death really rocked me. Subsequently, I moved to Nashville, and I knew that once I got to Nashville, that my mission was going to be to fight for fathers' rights. And that's when I put together I Love My Children Too and wrote the book, The Pain of Vengeance. And GA Hardaway, along with many of the people, including the late Lois DeBerry and many Henry Brooks, Representative Henry Brooks, and many of the other Tennessee Black Caucus, got behind me, and I went to subcommittee hearing after subcommittee hearing. Anytime I needed to talk to GA, I could go into the Capitol. He'd make time for me. Very eloquent man, very measured individual. I just want to take this time to let you all know that losing GA Hardaway, we've lost a stalwart. We've lost a pillar. And many of you all listening to the show today, you don't even know GA Hardaway. Many of you all aren't from Tennessee. Many of you all aren't from Nashville. Many of you all don't understand the power that when GA came into a committee hearing that he represented. It was unbelievable. And anytime GA called me, I was there. Anytime he said, hey, Dave, can you be at so-and-so, so-and-so? And it wasn't necessarily all about fathers' rights. There were other issues that we were fighting for at the time for the black community, for Memphis, for the state of Tennessee. I spent more time at the Tennessee State Legislature in about a 5-year period than I had ever did at any legislature. I wanted to tell you that story. And I don't know if GA Hardaway's family is going to listen or hear this story. But I want all of you all to know that in part, GA Hardaway is part of the reason that I am sitting here today. Because even when I moved to Nashville, the depression was so much. It was beating me up. I didn't know what to do. I would be sitting at a stoplight and I would just cry. I would just burst out in tears. I kept having the recurring dream that I was in a hole and I was climbing up, and I would get close to getting out, and then the side of the hole would cave in and I would fall back down and I would be buried all over again with muck and mire and dirt and garbage. And all I had to do was pick up the phone and call GA. He said, man, you all right? I said, man, I just needed to talk to someone. I didn't want to bother him a lot, but when I felt like I wanted to talk to someone, I would call him. So I just wanted to take this segment, and I told you at the beginning of the show, this show was going to be a little different from the shows that I've done in the past. This show is dedicated to my good friend, GA Hardaway. And I apologize because when I moved away from Nashville, I haven't talked to him since. There were a lot of good people that were in my corner when I was in Nashville, Tennessee. And I want to say right now to you all who are listening, JW, you know who I'm talking about. Because it was JW, who was my next door neighbor, who really helped me a lot when I came home from the hospital. All of you brothers out there, Sean, I know Sean has passed on. There's so many brothers out there that I got to know while I was fighting, while we were fighting. There are so many brothers that I talked off the ledge. Because even though I was on the ledge and I was hanging on by a fingernail, I talked him off the ledge. Oh, if I could tell you some of the stories. If I could tell you the story about the guy who called me and was standing outside the ex-wife's window with his pistol. I talked him off the ledge. GA talked me off the ledge. David talked me off the ledge. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to take this time to tell you about a warrior, a black man who stood in the gap, not just for me, but for thousands of other Tennesseans across the state of Tennessee, not just for fathers' rights, but child care, for education, you name it. This brother, GA Hardaway, stood in the gap. And he was unabashed about it. So to you, my brother, GA Hardaway, I know for a fact that you are sitting beside the ancestors. I know for a fact the ancestors has opened up their arms to you and welcomed you to sit on the throne beside them. And every one of our ancestors are looking at you today and saying, well done, my strong black king. Well done, Mr. GA Hardaway. Well done. Take your rest. Your memory lives inside of everyone you touched. And it lives inside of me. You know, I tell the story all the time that when you do good to other people, that memory lives. And then that person that you helped is going to use what you did for them to help someone else. Your memory lives, my brother. Well done, Mr. GA Hardaway. Habari Gsni. Ashe. 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 We'll take a break. When we come back, I told you I've got a list of things I want to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to talk about when I get back, but we're going to talk about something. We'll be back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On joinetradio.com.
Barbecue season is here and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. This show is dedicated to my dear friend, GA Hardaway. Love you, man. You live inside of me. Thanks a lot. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I'll tell you what, this segment, I want to talk about disrespect. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I did a show where I talked about the lady who choked the little girl on the school bus. 72-year-old grandmother who choked a little girl on the school bus, and they arrested her. You know, and I told you that little girl probably deserved it. Now, I know y'all think I'm crazy, but if you've dealt with some of these children today, look, in my opinion, I think teachers ought to be paid $150,000 a year, because not only do they have to be teachers, they have to be counselors, they have to be disciplinarians, and they are dealing with kids who are coming out of households who have no concept of respect because their parents are disrespectful. Their parents don't discipline them. Many of their parents were ex-crackheads, or maybe the husband or the wife was a crackhead, or maybe they are victims of sexual violence and abuse. And these kids come to school. I had a friend who was a teacher, and she would tell me the stories about how she would take the little girls who would come to school with nappy hair not combed, and they would take them into a room and comb her hair. And some of the other students at first would laugh about it, but then they began to realize how much this particular teacher loved every one of them. And when they had a problem too, they would come to the teacher. There was a principal in Memphis who set up a school where the kids could come and wash clothes because they didn't have a washer and dryer at home, or their parents didn't have money enough to take their clothes to the washer. And they would come to school smelling like urine and all kinds of things. I remember a kid when I was growing up, I won't call his name, but every day he smelled like pee. And kids make fun of him. It made him a lot worse person than he was. He used to fight all the time. Unfortunately, that young man, and I'm not going to call his name, ended up getting shot with a shotgun, took out half of his side. He lived the rest of his life, which wasn't long, with a colostomy bag. First time I had ever seen a colostomy bag. These children need a lot of help. So that grandmother who choked that child, I'm not surprised because of the environment that some of these children are coming out of. So there was another instance. This happened in apparently Little Rock, Arkansas, where a young man was addressing a male teacher, and he called the teacher bro. The teacher told him, said, "Hey, look, man, I'm not your bro. Respect me. I am Mr. So-and-so, so-and-so." I guess the kid thought he was being smart. And he said, "Sure, little bro. And the teacher pounced on him. Now, I know what y'all saying. Well, the teacher has to have more restraint. Look, I'm going to tell you like this. There's a part of the reason that you all don't deal with kids because your asses don't have constraint. And when you're dealing with knuckleheaded kids every day and they're constantly disrespecting you, at some point, you snap. And that's what this teacher did. I saw another story. Teacher was breaking up a fight. Check this out. Teacher was breaking up a fight. While she was breaking up the fight of two young men. Now, this was a female black teacher breaking up a fight with two black males. Usually, back in the day, when you did have a fight, all the black male teachers would come and break up the fight, not the female teachers. But here was a sister, a queen, who decided, hey, y'all not going to fight in this class. I'm going to break it up. In breaking up the fight, she scratched one of the participants in the fight. Accidentally. She wasn't trying to scratch him. She had long nails. She scratched the student. The student went home and told his father that the teacher had scratched him. The father called the police, and the police arrested the teacher. Wait a minute now. You're a dad. And see, this goes back to what I was saying about these children are being reared, and they're not, well, let me just say this. They're not even being reared. Because see, when you're being reared, you're being taught, you're being disciplined. These children are being allowed to grow up like wild weeds. And many of them now are being so influenced by social media. I mean, if you go out to social media now, they're fighting and everybody's posting it. And you got gangs of kids standing around talking about, yeah, get them, get them, get them. That's because their parents are not very good parents. And clearly, this young man's parent, instead of saying, well, wait a minute, how did you get scratched again? I don't know if the kids say, well, you know, me and so-and-so, we were tussling in class and and the teacher was trying to break it up and she scratched me accidentally. But based on based on the results and reading the story, I know that's not what the kid said. I'm probably sure that the kid probably may have said something like, well, she didn't like me anyway, and she probably scratched me on purpose. And instead of the dad picking up the phone and calling the teacher and say, hey, Miss so-and-so, I heard my son was in a fight, and he ended up getting scratched, and said, you did it, which is what the dad should have done, was picked up the phone and called her. He calls the police. The teacher is arrested. Y'all get this, right? We got a problem, folks. And at some point, if you don't raise them, the jail is going to raise them. You see, they don't want you to discipline your children anymore. The biggest mistake that we ever made was removing paddling from schools. Now, I know what you're saying. All you newfangled parents. But let me tell you something. There were a lot of kids that I know that got their butts beat. I got a few paddlings back in the day. Look at me. I did fantastic. See, that's the problem with the kids today, that they're not getting any discipline at home and they're not getting any discipline at school. They're not being taught how to behave. They're just letting them grow like wild weeds. And if you say something untoward to one of them, all of a sudden their feelings are hurt or they want to fight you. But you see, the reason they removed paddling from schools is because of the influx of black teachers. And white parents didn't want black teachers paddling little Tommy and little Sally. It was okay for white teachers to paddle black kids, but they didn't want black teachers paddling white kids. I remember a shop teacher I had, Mr. Page, 8th grade at Dunbar High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. Mr. Page didn't play. Mr. Page would walk around with his paddle in his belt. I remember even in elementary school, I had a principal by the name of Mr. Magro, and he would walk around with a paddle in his belt. Now, the funny thing about Mr. Page, though, didn't nobody want to tussle with Mr. Page. There was one kid, I remember, we went shop, and he wanted to challenge Mr. Page. Mr. Page had a voice like this. He was like 6'4". You were a damn fool if you wanted to challenge Mr. Page. But this kid did. He learned the hard way. And Mr. Page would, because he was a shop teacher, he made his own paddles. And we'd be in shop, and Mr. Page would be over there on the bandsaw cutting out his paddle. And then he would drill holes in it. He'd sand it down and varnish it and shellac it. And had that pretty oak wood. No, you didn't mess with Mr. Page. But I say all that to say this, that we are going to have to get a grip on our children. And even more so today, because what is happening in America is that they would rather lock them up, and use them as free labor as opposed to educate them. That's why there are so many private prisons that are popping up all over the country. It's because locking up black men, and now even black women, is the way to become a millionaire. Sadly enough, there are black people who are buying stock in the private prison industry. Aren't you, Michael Jordan? Y'all's GOAT. That's the sad thing about it. So we got to do something about it. I don't know what we can do, but I do know for a fact that keeping up in the theme of this hour is fathers are the key. And I believe, and I'm going to wrap this hour up, but I personally believe that part of the reason that they are not trying to change the laws for fathers, making it mandatory DNA testing and so on and so forth, I believe that they know that if they let black fathers back into the lives of their children, that these children are going to change not only themselves, but they're going to change the world, just like my generation did during the 60s. We'll take a break. It's the top of the hour. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. It is the second hour of the show. Appreciate you all joining me. This show today is dedicated to a very dear friend of mine. and probably who kept me from falling off the ledge. He caught me when I was hanging on to the ledge, but he certainly kept me from falling off the ledge, GA Hardaway. Much love to you and your family as they commemorate your legacy, because it is a strong one. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm probably not going to talk much about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's, he's going to be interspersed in this next hour, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about as it relates to our people. So one of the things I want to talk about is a boycott. We've talked about this before. I think it's more important than anything that we've ever done. But right now I want to talk to you about what's happening, or what just happened last week in Louisiana. I don't know if you heard the story of Calvin Duncan. Calvin Duncan was elected to serve as the clerk of criminal court for New Orleans years after he was exonerated for a 1981 murder that he didn't commit. Let me just say that again. This man was wrongfully convicted of murder. The New Orleans native decided to run for the New Orleans clerk of criminal court, aiming for that office strictly because, according to him, it had denied him access to trial records that would have proved his innocence decades prior. In a runoff against incumbent Darren Lombard, Duncan won with 68% of the vote. On Thursday, this past Thursday, April 23rd, the Louisiana State Legislature rushed through Senate Bill 256, eliminating the clerk of criminal court position effective in August. Duncan had been ceremonially sworn in on Tuesday the 21st and was set to take office on May 4th. Now the clerk of criminal court will fall under the clerk of civil court, and what Duncan referred to as the culmination of his life's work will be denied to him. He said, "I ran for clerk because I know firsthand what happened when our criminal legal system doesn't work as it should. The people of New Orleans elected me because they want and deserve something better." State Senator Jay Morris admitted that the bill was introduced with the urging of Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry. Landry had vehemently opposed Duncan's election and allegedly is seeking to deny him compensation for the time he was wrongfully imprisoned at the state penitentiary in Angola. How he gained his freedom, because this is important. In 1981, Duncan was sentenced to life in prison at the notorious Louisiana State Penitentiary. By the way, let me put a pause right here. This is the same state, Louisiana, who would lock up black men and black women during Jim Crow. And when those women became impregnated, they would sell their babies. This is Louisiana. I just wanted you to know that. Now, he was locked up in that prison for a murder he didn't commit. While incarcerated, he became known as the prison lawyer, working to clear his name and that of other men behind bars. He was released in 2011 after serving, get this, 30 years and agreeing to lesser charges of manslaughter, and the state vacated his conviction a decade later. He'd go on to graduate from Tulane University and later earn his law degree from Lewis and Clark University in 2023. He was among those who helped secure the U.S. Supreme Court decision in 2020 that ended non-unanimously verdicts. The citizens of New Orleans overwhelmingly said, "I want to give this person a chance to make a difference," Duncan told lawmakers during a committee hearing last March. What this bill does is say, "Thank you, but you wasted your time." It disenfranchises everyone. Here's a man who was wrongfully convicted. They denied him a look at the new evidence, spent 30 years in prison, got out. You shouldn't say he changed his life, because clearly he was already a good brother. He just got caught up in a bad situation. Now, I watched a lot of these hearings from Louisiana. And I want to thank Gary Chambers for highlighting a lot of this as well, because it was Gary Chambers. And if you haven't followed Gary Chambers, I would advise you to do so. I'm trying to get him on the show. But Gary Chambers highlighted this, and I started following this case. And to see these white bastards, these white racists, deny this man. And not only that, because he was voted in, they basically just disenfranchised 68% of the electorate in New Orleans. And they are predominantly black voters. So they basically gave those voters the middle finger and said, we don't give a damn what you think. We don't care. We're going to pass a law, and and basically what they did was they eliminated the position altogether. Wow. Under the guise, by the way, is that they were trying to save money. Unbelievable. It was so unbelievable that there were even white Republicans who was coming to Calvin Duncan's defense and chastising the legislature and telling them just how abhorrent this move is. Now, Louisianans, you can't get frustrated, because now I know what some of you all are going to say. Some of you all are going to say, well, see, I told y'all my vote don't count. Yeah, it does. And this is all the more reason why you need to redouble and triple your efforts to get to the polls, get registered to vote, get your 18-year-old kid to the polls and vote against this white supremacy. Because that tactic by the Louisiana state legislature was nothing more than white supremacy. And it needs to be stopped. Hopefully, this thing will go on to the Supreme Court, and Calvin Duncan will take his position. I'm going to give you a remedy in the next segment, one that I've been talking about for a long time. Because, see, there are a whole lot of black kids that play for the Louisiana State University. I'm going to give you the remedy in a little bit. More information. We've talked about the black farmers being denied funds to keep their farms. Hallie Schaffner, who is running against Tom Cotton in Arkansas for his Senate seat, she's still not answered the letter that I sent to her about what is she going to do for black farmers. And why is it that she didn't speak out for black farmers when they had the meeting in D.C. about farmers and the black farmers were ignored? How can you ask me for my vote when you're not going to do anything with my vote? I'm building to something. Y'all stick with me here. HBCUs are under attack. HBCUs now are even afraid to teach black history. How is it that you can be an HBCU and you won't teach black history? Because of threats by the Trump administration. How is it that Trump has fired 75% of black men and women that were in Washington, D.C.? There's a suit floating around about that right now. I'm just asking. Where are all those black Trump-ladykes? Where are you, folks? Oh, well, he's not racist. Well, it's pretty clear that he is. And let me give you the last point to this segment. If you hadn't heard, the SCLC was recently sued by the Trump administration. They claim that the SCLC, let me just read this to you, because if you don't know what the SCLC is, The SCLC has been at the forefront over the last 25, 50 years of fighting racism in the Ku Klux Klan. On April 26, the Trump administration's Justice Department indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center on federal fraud charges alleging it misled donors. The DOJ claims that the SPLC improperly used funds to pay leaders of the extremist group, while the SPLC vowed to defend its work. The action is part of a broader tension between the administration and progressive nonprofits. Here are the charges. The indictment includes accusations of wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Allegations: the DOJ claims the SPLC paid over $3 million between 2014 and 2023 to individuals affiliated with groups like the KKK. The response from the SCLC, the organization stated it would vigorously defend the organization, staff, and the work. Experts note this is part of a larger pattern of the administration challenging nonprofits. But no, I don't agree with that last segment. This is a larger part of that administration supporting white supremacists. Because we know now that many of the people that are in his administration are white supremacists. And those who are in the administration, this is their way, in my opinion, of getting back at the SPLC for the work that they've done. You know, when I heard about this case, I thought about something that was in our history. Remember, one of the reasons that I talk about history a lot is because I tell you that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. I'm going to say one word. Those who know will say, I never thought of that. Those who don't know, when I say this word, it is incumbent upon you to go and research this word. COINTELPRO. I'm going to let that ruminate for a moment. Raise your hand if you know what COINTELPRO was. Now, I'm going to give you a book, and I've told you to read this book before. Go and get the book, The FBI versus Martin Luther King Jr. by David J. Garrow. He delineates from FBI files exactly what COINTELPRO was doing under J. Edgar Hoover to undermine the Black Civil Rights Movement. And many people believe that COINTELPRO had hands in the assassination of multiple black leaders. Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X. The list goes on and on and on. COINTELPRO infiltrated a lot of the black movement during that time period. So here we are today in 2026, and we are seeing similar things that are going on with the Justice Department, which is an oxymoron in this day and time, that is trying to undermine black movement or set us back. See, SPLC was instrumental in uncovering what the white supremacists and the KKK were doing. You see, just because they don't wear sheets doesn't mean that their sheets are over their minds, not over their faces anymore. And we see every day a president who has embraced their bigotry, who has embraced their racism, the subjugation of basic human rights under the guise that it's the best interest of America. So what are you going to do about it? This should concern every one of you. And those black people out there who don't have a clue, it's time to get one, brothers and sisters. I went to the grocery store today. And while we walked around the grocery store, I didn't know these people, but I went by 3-4 people who were complaining about prices. Hello? Even one lady said, these prices are so damn high. This is ridiculous. She just said it out loud. And the people that were in the aisle, like, whoo, they started laughing. Yeah, you're right, sister. You're right, sister. I've told you all over and over again that millionaires and billionaires don't give a damn about you. Go read the stories about Eric Trump and how the Defense Department has just awarded him a $24 million contract for the company that he's involved with that builds drones. $24 million. Talk about a conflict of interest. Donald Trump last week said, hey, look, before it's over with, we're going to be the richest family in America. They are bilking Americans out of billions and billions of dollars. Oh, did you hear about the corporate tariffs? You know, the Supreme Court ruled that the tariffs that Trump had initiated were illegal, and all of that money had to be refunded. Prior to that refund, who was paying those tariffs? Were the corporations paying those tariffs? Hell no. Your ass was paying those tariffs with these high ass prices. So now these corporations are going to get a refund. Are you who paid because the corporations didn't pay the tariffs? You did. Tariffs are passed on to you. Those of you who don't know basic social studies, tariffs are taxes. And anytime there are taxes that are raised on corporations, it don't hurt them. That's why they can get $50 million golden parachutes. They just pass it on to you, the consumer. So now that those tariffs are going to be refunded, are those corporations going to give you money back? No. See, they don't give a damn about you, folks. I've been trying to tell y'all this for the longest. You know, I feel like that lone wolf on the mountain edge, howling at the moon. The difference is you hear that wolf. You don't hear me. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. All of that money that you spent on those items, you, John Q. Public, Sally Q. Public, are not going to see a pen of that. Those tariffs that are going to be paid back to these corporations are going to go in their pockets. They don't give a damn about y'all, folks. And I've told you all over and over and over again that we need to stop voting millionaires and billionaires into office. Right now, our elections have been hijacked. All this dark money that is being paid to politicians. John Fetterman is a classic example of that. He ran as a Democrat. He was pretending like he was so involved with the Democrats. And what is he doing? He's voting for Republicans. He's voting for any issue that they have. So much so that even the Democratic Party in Philadelphia will not acknowledge him now. Well, in Pennsylvania. Because they're being paid off. Part of the reason that we're in this war with Iraq is because those people are being paid off. Hello? We need to stop voting for millionaires and billionaires. They don't care about you. Because think about it. The taxes that they passed in the big, beautiful debacle. And it was funny. There was a post that came across my wall the other day. And it was Tom Cotton and John Bozeman. And they were glad handing each other in a meeting that they had just finished with Arkansas hospital executives. And the post said to some extent, it was great to meet with hospital executives, da, 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 da. And as I read through the comments, people were laughing. And I even posted the comment. I said, were y'all glad handing about the billions of dollars that you had cut from rural hospitals where Arkansans are going to suffer? Or were you all glad handing because those hospital executives are going to end up with a golden parachute, something like that. So here they are thinking that you're fools. And any of you all that are in these southern states who think that these, or anyone in America right now who think that these rich people, particularly these Republicans, care about you and your well-being, you're a damn fool. My God. The Comedy Channel, Comedy Central, I love the way they go out and they talk to some of these Trump-Luddites. And one of them I saw the other day was they were talking about the war, and they asked this person, a couple of them, what do you think about the war? She swore up and down that it wasn't a war. He said, well, Donald Trump said it was a war. He said, but she said it wasn't a war. It was an incursion. He said, but are you concerned about the high gas prices that you're paying? Well, it's only going to be temporary. He said, well, how much, last time you filled up your car, how much was a gallon of gas? Wherever they were, he didn't identify. She said it was $5. See, I remember when gas was like $2.87 just a little more than 6 months ago. See, they've made you buy into the lie. Short-term pain is going to mean long-term gain. All of those people that are in the Trump administration don't give a damn about you because they're millionaires and billionaires. Okay? So, yeah, they can say, look, the next time you meet one of your representatives, ask them the last time they filled up their gas tank. Ask them the last time they went to the grocery store. You know, when I was growing up, you used to bump into your state representatives in the grocery store because they were living in your neighborhood. But I know for a fact that Tom Cotton doesn't even live in Arkansas. Hello? Tommy Tuberville doesn't even live in Alabama. That's been a contention for a while. He's now running for governor of Alabama. And you all are gonna vote for him because he's a white boy. We know for a fact that any of the things that we've heard about Donald Trump, if that would have been a black man, he would have never been elected. All right, let's take a break. I got a couple other things I want to talk about, and then I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna solve this problem. It's gonna take some short-term pain, but it's gonna give you some long-term gain. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. We're quickly coming up on the end of the show, but I've got two more segments that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and do this. A couple of things I want to get into before we get out of here. I quickly want to address the issue of Ashley Gonzalez, Houston police officer Ashley Gonzalez. Okay, if you haven't seen Ashley Gonzalez and her racist rant about black people, I would tell you it's well worth going out and listening to it because it speaks volumes. Because see, here's the thing that I tell people. You know, whomever you hang with, you know that person and who they are. I can see, so my co-workers, when I was working in corporate America, I knew the type of people they were. I knew the bigots. I knew the racists. I knew the drug addicts. I knew the alcoholics. I knew the fathers and the mothers. You know, because you work with these people, you know what they stand for. And if you are a police officer, you certainly know what your fellow police officers stand for. And at the end of the day, the people in the Houston Police Department knew Ashley Gonzalez was a racist. Okay? Gonzalez was fired last week. She had the unmitigated gall, and maybe she was drinking too much tequila. I don't know. But she had the unmitigated gall to get on social media, which I don't know why people do this, and started just ranting about black people. And she said stuff like, you all deserve slavery and this, that, and the other. She don't realize that she is a product of us. Because she has her white skin, she thinks that puts her closer to white people. This is the problem that many Hispanics have. The affinity towards white people, yet these same white people hate their guts and are trying to get them out the country. If people like Stephen Miller, Stephen Bannon, Donald Trump, and this administration had their way, every Hispanic would not be in this country. But she had the nerve to get on here and rant about black people and how much she hated them and how much we deserve to be slaves and this, that, and the other. Well, Ashley Gonzalez was fired last Friday from the Houston Police Department. And before you applaud the Houston Police Department for doing the right thing, if she was that bold to say that on social media, I guarantee you that she said that with her mates, her fellow officers. Someone in that department knew Ashley Gonzalez was a racist. Someone knew that because see, they've had this conversation before. Someone in that office knew Ashley Gonzalez was like this, but no one wanted to say anything. Huh? Why is that? So the Houston Police Department put out this statement is about, this same generic statement that this is not what we stand for. This is not what we're going to tolerate. Da, 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 da. Yeah, that's just, what did you do? Put that in Chat GPT? Did you have Chat GPT to make that statement for you? Because you knew she was a racist. You see, the thing about a racist is that they're going to expose themselves to somebody, because when you're a racist, you're proud of it. And particularly in this climate today, that's why she said it. She's proud of being a racist, and she wanted everybody to know. That's why she got on social media. You don't get on social media and make those kind of statements if you don't want to be proud of who you are. And she got on social media because she wanted to prove and tell everybody that I'm a racist Latina, and I'm proud of it. And by the way, I'm making a living off of your tax dollars. Okay. Black people in Houston and Texas proper were paying her to be a racist. How many black people did she harass? How many black people did she pull over purposely with no probable cause, gave them tickets, got them arrested, housed them? How many? We don't know. But that's what racists do. And I'm not buying the fact that nobody in the Houston Police Department didn't know that this heifer was a racist. Good riddance. But unfortunately, just to fire her wasn't enough. She should have lost her certificate for being a police officer. She's going to go to another community and become a police officer and still be racist. And she's going to learn her lesson. She said, well, I'm going to be a racist, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be a closet racist. Hello. Which brings me to my next point. For probably 5 or 6 years now, I've been talking about how we can solve this problem. Okay. This past weekend, I watched the NFL draft. And I watched how those young brothers got drafted. The NFL made millions and millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, Michael Wilbon, and you all may not know him, but he is a writer and a sportscaster. He works with Tony Kornheiser. He made a statement last week that I thought was profound. The NFL is trying to go to 18 games now. And the NFL has lied that they are concerned about the health and welfare of their players. They're not. Football is the most debilitating sport that we play. And I say we because I played 2.5 years of college football. And I sit here today with different types of ailments based on those that play. In fact, I have spinal fusion because I had damaged vertebrae. And I played college. Many of y'all don't even know what chronic encephalopathy is, where the players, after years of banging their heads, they are losing their minds. Many of them can't walk. Many of them can't even take care of themselves. They've got these millions of dollars and they can't even take care of themselves. And Michael Wilbon said something very profound, that if you were so concerned about the player safety, then you would not be going to 18 games. But that's not what I'm bringing that up for. Those players that were drafted this year, there were a whole lot of black kids that were drafted. Whole lot. In fact, there are a whole lot of playing college football, and they're now getting NIL money. The question is, at what point do you say, hey, we've had enough? Because I've said this over and over again, that the only way to effectively at least slow down racism in America is to affect the white man's pocketbook. The NFL paid millions of dollars to broadcast the draft for 3 days. Major League Baseball, the NBA. I'm watching the playoffs. By the way, shout out to LeBron James. Those you haters of LeBron, y'all need to go sit your asses down. Go bounce your butt on the curb out there. But the NFL is paying millions of dollars to these kids. The majority of them are black kids. And I know all of y'all thinking, and as you saw some of the families, the kids, these young men were crying, the families were excited. It was a great time for all. They had won the lottery, all this hard work that they put in, not knowing that they're going to play for a racist organization because the majority of the NFL owners donated to Donald J. Trump. Did y'all know that? Those of you who love the Cowboys, you know your owner, Jerry Jones, is a huge Trump supporter. The NFL, and I found it so ironic that at the beginning of the draft, the NFL had a rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. See, they're trying to placate you. They're trying to play with you, man. They're pissing on your leg and telling you it's raining. And y'all are buying it hook, line, and sinker. Y'all are buying it hook, line, and sinker. So all of those black kids, I think the last number that I saw was the percentage of black people that play in the NFL is like 68%. Okay? 68%. The percentage of black kids that play major college football is like 70%. In the NBA, I want to say it's like 72, 73%. Now, I know what you're saying. So, Dave, where are we going with this? Let me ask you a question. Are you tired of racism? Are you tired of how you are being treated? You're still the last to be hired and the first to be fired. You have a Trump administration that has went through its administration and gotten rid of the majority of the black people that were in charge. I found it so ironic that the Artemis was commanded by a black man, and the people who were responsible at mission control were black people, the majority of them. Yet, Trump will come out and say they're low IQ. By the way, shout out to Hakeem Jeffries, who said, I'll debate your ass anytime you're ready. In fact, I'll debate Donald Trump anytime he's ready. In fact, I've got a fourth grader I know that'll debate Donald Trump and run rings around him. So, what am I saying? Because I'm a student of history. I know what works. Not because I created it. I'm just going by what I saw. Let's go back to the Montgomery bus boycott. You see, black people in Montgomery just refused to ride the bus. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, not only did black people refuse to ride the bus, they began to turn to one another. They had carpools. They stopped shopping not only at the white stores, but at the white bus terminals. They stopped spending money with white folks. And before you knew it, the white folks in Montgomery said, whoa, wait a minute. Let's go back even a little further. Remember the red summer that I went through, 2 or 3 months delineating all of the places that had been affected by the red summer? Do you realize that those people that were assaulted during the red summer, many of those towns were assaulted simply because the black towns were doing better than the white towns. The black businesses were doing better than the white businesses because black people were spending money with their own people. Hello? Are you following me yet? See, my argument to you is you have to decide whether or not you're going to spend money with our people. You have to decide that. You just can't pretend that you're going to do it. You have to take your money away from them. That's the only way you're going to solve this problem, people. You need to stop playing for them. You need to stop entertaining them. What would happen if black athletes, you heard me tell the story about Calvin Duncan in Louisiana earlier in the show. You heard me tell that story. Calvin Duncan is from Louisiana, spent 30 years in prison. I'm just wondering, does Louisiana State University have black players? What would happen if those black players who went to LSU decided, look, if Calvin Duncan is not going to be seated, we're not going to play for LSU? Hello? Right now, there are a lot of basketball players and football players that are in the transfer portal. What would happen if those black players decided, you know what? I'm just not going to play until your state starts treating my people right. What would happen? That's the question that we got to start asking. We got to start putting the onus on our children because, see, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And just because there are a few black players that are getting paid, what's going to happen when your children are being raised and they are being subjugated to bigotry and racism? Because it's going to happen. Okay? It's going to happen. See, these white people don't like you unless you can do something for them. And right now, the thing that you are doing for them is shooting baskets and scoring touchdowns. What would happen if black players right now decided to boycott the NFL? Hello? What would happen? You see, what you don't understand is that they've taught you to believe that you have no power. You see, power is not necessarily in money. Power is in people. And when people band together, that's when things get done. And right now, black people forgot that. They've forgotten it. And now they're beginning to realize it's clear as day, as my mom used to say, that these white folks don't like you. If they had their druthers, they would send all of you all back to Africa. And to show you how cruel that they are, if you hear some of the stories of what they're doing with these kids, locking up these kids in these prisons, 5 and 6 year olds, to what end? Sleeping on the floor, eating food with maggots, can't even drink decent drinking water. This is the same stuff that they did to slaves, our ancestors. I was on the JC Love Morning Show about a week ago, and we were talking about John Bozeman and Tom Cotton. And I use this as an analogy because some people think John Bozeman is a good person. But I debunked that myth. Because here's the analogy that I used. Many of you all who know history and have studied history, you all know for a fact. You've seen the pictures of black men and women being hung. You've seen the pictures of those people standing around those black men and women as they hung or as they were being burned, as their bodies were being bullet riddled. Mary Turner is one of those women who she was hung. Her body was, and not only she was hung, but her husband was hung, and she was pregnant. They cut the fetus out of her body. It fell on the ground. Then they stomped on the fetus and shot it dead. You see, those people, Tom Cotton is the sheriff who would let those KKK members come in and take those so-called accused black people out of jail to hang them. John Bozeman is the guy who gathered up his family and friends and made picnic baskets to go watch the hanging. That's who they are. They haven't changed. Those people who lived then, those racists, are the same people right now who are running our government. You can call Donald Trump Woodrow Wilson. Many people believe that Woodrow Wilson was probably one of the racist presidents we've ever had. I would argue against that because they all were racist. But who does Donald Trump say is his favorite president? Andrew Jackson. What was Andrew Jackson? He was the author of the Trail of Tears, the massacre of millions of Native Americans, let alone he owned slaves as well. While I lived in Tennessee, I never visited his estate, which was right outside of Nashville. I just wouldn't. There was nothing that I want. I remember we had an event at his estate. I feigned sickness because I wasn't going. I just wasn't going to do it. So my point is this, and we're going to wrap up this segment. My point is this, that we have got to start understanding the power of what we have. And the power of what we have are our bodies. It has always been our bodies. Our bodies made this country what it is today. That free labor. It made this country what it is today. That free labor. And now we are making millionaires and billionaires of white people. And they are still just as racist as ever. At some point, we need to wake up. It's time to take a break. Our last break is what we must do. It's called Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinnetradio.com.
Barbecue
Barbecue season is here and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
All right, welcome back to the last segment of the show. It's my favorite, What We Must Do. If you listen to this past segment, you know what we must do. We have to educate, educate, educate. And then we have to boycott, boycott, boycott. We need to stop entertaining them. Okay? It's time to stop it. If you want them to listen, and I mentioned in the last segment the Montgomery bus boycott. I tell people all the time that the most powerful weapon that black people used against white people was not the marching. It wasn't even the deacons of defense. It was the economic boycott. Because when white people, when you start affecting their bottom line, that changes everything. You see, right now they're riding on their high horses. Oh, we got black folks. Think about all the industries that sports supports. The gambling industry. Think about the billions of dollars that are bet on sports every day. Just the draft alone. How many people were betting on the draft and who was going to go here? The NBA playoffs, the Major League Baseball playoffs. What if black people, and say Major League Baseball realized that they made a mistake when they got rid of black folks? I remember growing up, man, the run and gun offenses, the steal, those types of baseball teams, they don't exist anymore. Everybody wants the big fly now. I'm sorry if you don't know what the big fly is. That's an old term. That's your problem. They're waiting on the big fly. You don't have the Ricky Hendersons of today. You don't have those types of people. Okay? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we've got to start educating our people, and it needs to happen now. Because see, with education comes consciousness. And right now our people are unconscious. We've been sold a bill of goods that the American dream is to make as much money as you can, and you don't need to give a damn about no one, even your own people. Make your money, bro. That old saying when they tell strippers, make that money, girl, don't let that money make you. That's what's happening. The money is making our people. And the sad thing about it, they've got friends and relatives who are suffering from bigotry and racism, and they're turning a blind eye to it. In fact, I fascinate with these black athletes who set up these foundations. And I remember while I was working in Nashville with the Titans, that many of those athletes, they were quick to go and support white causes. They were quick to go and support the United Way. Okay? They were quick to do that. Instead of setting up their own foundations and making sure that money goes to the black community. One of the reasons I love Steve McNair so much is because when he would have football camps, a lot of those players have the football camps, you got to pay $100. Black parents can't pay that money. But Steve McNair would have those football camps, and they would be free. They would be free. That's what you ought to be doing, is that you ought to be making ways for young black people, not only to admire you on the football field, but admire you off the field. Because see, really what makes you a man is not the money that you make, but how you use that money to empower other people. And how that happens is you have a conscience, a black conscience. We glorify rappers. Let me tell you something. I saw a statistic today that 80% of the music executives around the country are white. 80% of those music executives and those music studios are owned by white people. 75% of those owners are Jews. And I saw a piece the other day, whereas this Jewish person, I forgot her name, said that they have to do something about young black people if they're going to be successful. When I say they, the Jewish lobby is going to be successful. Now, what do they mean by that? What do you have to do to black people? Well, the best thing to control a person is control their minds. There's legislation there was a suit a couple of weeks ago to sue Meta and some of the social media companies because they were influencing their teens with their algorithms. Well, guess what? They've been influencing our teens with their music. And look, there are black musicians who have made millions of dollars off of that. And some of those same black musicians are Trump fans. Hello. So you grew up in the hood. You make music about the hood. It is being produced and distributed by Jews to only black kids because they will not let their kids listen to that music because they know it poisons their mind. And y'all okay with it. This is why I say you got to educate. Because that music is doing nothing. You know, I keep thinking about, not Boys in the Hood, but the story of Nino Brown. Y'all know, New Jack City. New Jack City Nino Brown in that movie was the hero. And Nino Brown would come to the hood and distribute turkeys during the season. This is what drug dealers do. During Thanksgiving and holidays, they give out turkeys. And the community was supposed to love them. Oh, look what Nino Brown is doing for the community. They're doing that now in a roundabout way. The rappers will throw you a little change and y'all think that, oh, well, this guy's so good. And then when you listen to their music, you begin to realize just how that debauchery. I laughed at Delta Sigma Theta who had Trick Daddy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never listened to a Trick Daddy song, but according to reports and what I've heard, his music is pretty bad. When he got up there and started singing all that, they ran him off the stage. What did they expect? Okay. We've embraced this debauchery in our community. And you wonder why our children are disrespecting teachers and disrespecting adults who are decelling as opposed to excelling in school. Because it's by design. Because see, if I can make you an idiot, that idiot is more prone to end up committing a crime, and then I can send him to my private prison that is owned by white men. So if I can't deport you, I can imprison you. That's what they're doing. And we all are buying it hook, line, and sinker. There's a reason why I don't use the N-word. There's a reason why I have this campaign going on to get rid of the N-word. I saw Amber Rose the other day said she thinks white people ought to be able to use the N-word. Well, they already use it. They just don't say it in public. But here's Amber Rose saying, hey, I want to be able to call you an N-word. And ain't nothing you can do about it. Now, theoretically, it's free speech, but it's a racist term. Why didn't she say we ought to be able to call Jews different terms? Why didn't she say we ought to be able to call Hispanics a racist slur? She specifically said black people. She want to be able to say the N-word to black people. We need to wake up, folks. There's a problem. And they know that you are not paying attention. You see, you don't have to be a millionaire or a billionaire to do what's right. And I think it's right that when we get people in our community who turn their backs on our community, then I think it's right that they need to be shunned. Just like a leper. They need to be shunned. When you make that old saying, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And there are a whole lot of black people, just because they have money, they think they can do and say anything they want and ignore the black community. You have a charge to keep. There are people who laid down their lives before you to be able for you to get where you are today. And you owe that back to the community. And on that note, that is what we must do. I got to get out of here. I hope I did some justice about GA Hardaway. I hope I did. Because this show was dedicated to my good friend. I wish you all peace. I hope you have a great week. And there's more to come from Black Focus Radio. And don't forget, The Pain of Vengeance audiobook is going to be available in a little more than a month. And you can save $4 on the upcoming book. Coming up real soon. See you later. Just remember, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but in times of challenge. Today is our challenge. Y'all have a great day.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joinetradio.com.